Welcome back. Housing is shaping up to be one of the greatest social challenges for Ireland and indeed for the world in the coming decades, with cities struggling to accommodate an ever-growing population.
In tonight's episode of The Great Guide to the Future, Jonathan McCrea explores some of the possible solutions to what is a complex problem. In China, he got a glimpse of one pretty amazing idea in action. Let's have a look.
This 57-storey skyscraper contains 800 apartments and office space for 4,000 staff. It even has an internal 3.5-kilometre street for people to walk or cycle. But the most remarkable thing about building J57 is that it was erected in a staggering 19 days using Zhang's steel module system.
Jonathan, tell us about how that building was built so quickly and what's so interesting about it for the future of housing.
So the foundations are like any other foundations. You need concrete foundations. That takes some time. But what Zhang has done is he's used, this is Chairman Zhang Wei, is a sort of a very interesting billionaire in China who started off in the air conditioning business and moved to making these sort of buildings. He sort of found a way to click together steel frames, much like Meccano or Lego, so that they're prefabricated on site, they turn up on site, and because they're on site, they click them together. They use hardly any water, if no water at all. They have 10% of the construction waste, and they can be erected very, very quickly because you're not waiting for concrete to set as you go from one story to another story. So we were standing on that building, J57. It was 19 days it took to build. 19 days. And you imagine going away on holidays and coming back, and a 57-storey skyscraper was there.
Well, we did an extension. It took 3 months.
There you go. Yeah,
and that was good.
There is a company in Germany called Hoffhaus who have a similar principle. They will prefabricate everything on site in their factory in Germany, drive it to the location wherever it is in Europe, and click the house together in 5 or 6 days. So the principle is there. It hasn't yet been adopted, I suppose, globally the way he would like it to be. What's the reception like to it in China? Is it seen as the way of the future, or are they a bit suspect about this chap?
Well, he's been heralded internationally as a great environmentalist. And it might seem like a bit of a paradox that, you've got this property developer who's building a skyscraper. He sees himself as an environmentalist. He says the way we're building construction in China cannot continue. And when you think about what's happening in China, it's staggering. So in the past 40 years, we've seen a new city popping up in China every single month. So that's a new Copenhagen, a new Amsterdam, a new Dublin. Not a town, a city. Yeah. The size of these places is absolutely enormous, and that's happening every single
With all the attendant environmental problems that brings.
Town planning and etc.
But tell us about this guy, Zhang Yue. You spoke to him, and he has a special sort of corporate culture, if you like, in his company. Is that right?
So I felt, the director thought I was being unfair. I felt it was a bit culty. So they start the day singing a song. They all wear, it's a company song where they promise to be good to the environment and good to the company. And they profess their love for the company. Right? And then they...
like Ryanair.
It's like TV3. Everyone's wearing the same outfits, and they all go about their business. There's no relationships allowed on site because that's counterproductivity. In the canteen, you only eat the food that you take. You're not allowed to leave a grain of rice on your plate. So this is the philosophy of frugal living and not wasting anything. There's a handbook for employees who all live on the site, and it's kind of an animated. I'm not sure if you can see that, and it tells you, the best way to live your life. So wearing cotton garments rather than synthetic, that you should be eating organic food, using solid wood furniture because that captures carbon dioxide emissions.
But this same guy then has 3 private planes. He's reduced it from 10, mind you, but he has 3 private planes. So he is a bit of an oxymoron.
Well, it is. But the funny thing is, China is a place that's filled with contradictions. So in China, they are building like nobody's business. In the last 2 years, China has used more concrete. This is a quote from Bill Gates. More concrete in China used in the past years than has been used in the history of the United States.
My God, in 1 year.
We're talking about a huge amount of construction, and it does have to change.
Okay, Jonathan, but can we adopt the principles and the methods of building that Mr. Zhang has here in Ireland? We have a real housing crisis and a social housing crisis in Ireland. If the decision were made in the morning to adopt this style of building, could we, in a year's time, 2 years' time, have eradicated the problems we have?
I asked him that question. He very much feels that Ireland could make these buildings. The problem is, there's many things. Number one, people don't want tall buildings in Dublin. I do. I'd love to see something like the Shard or a really beautiful building.
But we have Liberty Hall, don't we?
Yeah. But there's buildings restricted at the moment to 28 metres. There's consultation going on now. In some places, it might go up to 60 metres, but that's 210 metres. That building. We are stuck with this low-rise profile of Dublin City. When we fly into somewhere like Shanghai and then come back to somewhere like Dublin, I think it's a pity that we haven't got a part of the building that shows that we're a forward-thinking country. We don't have that beautiful skyline.
Get our heads around going higher and building it quickly. But the world as a whole, I mean, the whole idea of the show is the challenges that the world faces and technology that can help deal with them.
Yeah.
I mean, our population is, 7 billion at the moment, but it's going to double, in the next 50 years?
Not double, yeah. I think that the projections at the moment are about 9.3 billion, and the increased urbanisation is going to have a huge amount of pressure. But there's a lot of bad things about skyscrapers. Light, people who generally live in skyscrapers don't have the same quality of mental health.
All right.
Donald Trump, for instance. So these, so skyscrapers aren't a panacea. Skyscrapers aren't a panacea, but they would provide certainly some housing. But of course, when you look at the housing problem in Ireland, it's not just that there isn't housing there. Partially, it's the commodification of housing and the fact that there are houses that were bought not for people to live in, but to trade. And that's one of the big problems in Dublin. And it's one of the problems in China as well. These places are being bought not for people to live in, but in the hopes that they will go up in value in 10 years' time and be flipped. And that's a problem. If people are meant to live in houses in this country, then the problem could go much quicker.
And every Irishman has a bit of the Bull McCabe in him, doesn't he?
The field.
A bit of land.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So tonight, B3?
Tonight, B3, 7 p.m.
7 p.m. A must watch. Jonathan, thanks a million for coming.